Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today I will present a project formulation to fulfill the requirement for subjects SP600. And the titles of my project will be text sentiment analysis using hybrid sentiment varying words lexicon. Before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Wan Aina Nabila binti Wan Muhammad Hamdi, and I am from group CS2595A. I am supervised by Professor Dr. Azina Muhammad. All right, in the content of this presentation would include chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Let's start with chapter 1. I will introduce the research background, problem statement, research question, objective, scope, and lastly will be significant. First of all, sentiment analysis is a classification of opinion within text data using text analysis technique. It can be divided into two approaches, which is machine learning and lexicon based. For these two approach, it have three levels, which are document level, sentence level, and aspect level. Because of massive data nowadays, it is hard to analyze each of the product review manually, but with sentiment analysis, it is the process, especially with the correct chosen technique. In this study, the focus will be on lexicon-based approach on document level and sentence level on Amazon product review. We will not using aspect level because it only focus on certain aspect or feature rather than the whole document. All right, as for the problem statement, if we look in the methods view, the noisy data is normal when doing analysis, but in lexicon approach, it can cause uncertainty in sentiment classification performance. Next, limited work was done on WKWSCI sentiment classification performance. In the domain's perspective, as said before, because of huge data, massive data, it is hard to analyze sentiment manually. Now, every objective must based on the research question. So I will map the research question with the objective that can help in answering this question. So the first question would be, what are the lexicon primarily used for product review? To answer this question, we have the objective to investigate sentiment bearing word lexicon approach for text sentiment analysis. The question asks, what are the lexicon used? So we need to investigate sentiment bearing words lexicon that we will use. The next question would be, how the result differ for general purpose lexicon and hybrid lexicon? To answer this question, we perform sentiment analysis based on hybrid sentiment bearing words lexicon with WKWSCI lexicon. WKWSCI lexicon is a general purpose lexicon. And the third question will be, do the hybrid lexicon improve the accuracy? To answer this, we need to evaluate. Just now we perform. So now we need to evaluate the performance of hybrid sentiment bearing words lexicon against the baseline approach. All right, next, as for the scope of the project, lexicon that will be used in this project is WKWSCI lexicon and SentiWordNet for baseline lexicon on document level and sentence level. Dataset that will be used is Amazon product review and New Straits Times headlines. And constraint that might happen in this project is limited word coverage on the lexicon corpus. As we know, each lexicon have its number of words. For the second one is noisy data. We cannot run from noisy data, and that's why pre-processing the data is important. As for the significance of this project, the study will benefit especially to academician or researcher because we provide an analysis of the data. Meanwhile, in business perspective, sentiment analysis can help seller identify any problem and fix the problem to satisfy the customer need. All right, move to the chapter 2. The first one is literature review. And our title is text sentiment analysis using hybrid sentiment lexicon, bearing word lexicon. Based on the title itself, we can divide the keyword into 4 sub-points. The first one would be our domain, which is a product review. Second one would be method. As for method, even though our focus is in lexicon based, but it doesn't mean that we can ignore machine learning. If we look at the data set sub-point, because our domain is product review, of course we have a product review dataset. But why news headline? News headline dataset is needed to check the efficiency of our hybrid lexicon. And lastly, for related work, we will look at the same domain with different approach and different domain with the same approach. In this, I classify into four, which is the first one is sentiment review using machine learning. Second one, application of hybrid. Third one is lexicon-based approach on review dataset. And lastly, comparison of machine learning and lexicon based on review dataset. All right. As for the literature review table, I will briefly explain on this. The first sources conclude that Who and Liu lexicon are recommended for product review. And it shows that machine learning gets the higher accuracy compared to the other algorithm. The second sources is about opinion mining using SentiWordNet lexicon. They conclude that lexicon produce a good result in classify the review sentiment. The third sources also tell us about lexicon-based implementation. And here it is said that combination of general purpose lexicon and domain-specific lexicon can improve the performance of the sentiment. All right, next. For both of these sources, they perform sentiment analysis on review using machine learning approach. Generally, both of these studies tell us that SVM provide higher accuracy for review sentiment analysis. The most used algorithm in this algorithm in machine learning is SVM and naive Bayes. All right. Last but not least, we have chapter 3, which is research methodology. For research methodology, the chapter is divided into 3 sections, which is research framework, research design, and research flow. All right. For the first one, research framework. In research framework, we list out all the phases included to perform this study, starting from project formulation, then knowledge acquisition, followed by data collection, pre-processing, empirical research, development development of hybrid lexicon, interpretation and analysis, and lastly, documentation. Next, for research design, each of the phase will be mapped to the objective, which means for this objective, what kind of phases that involve. For objective 1, the phases involved would be phase 1 and phase 2, where chapter 1 and chapter 2 made from these phases. First one is problem formulation. In the problem formulation, we identify problem related to the domain by consultation with the supervisor. And the deliverable will be chapter 1, introduction, background study, objective, scope, significant. Okay, next, knowledge acquisition. In knowledge acquisition, we search and read for the journal related to the domain as we made chapter 2 before. Next, for objective 2, there are 4 out of 8 phases involved. In order to perform sentiment analysis, we need to have data, right? So we need to perform data collection. For Amazon product review, the data set is provided, but for news headline, we need to scrape by ourselves using Beautiful Soup in Python. The deliverable would be an unclean data set with all the noisy data. And with all the noisy data, we need to do the data pre-processing. In data pre-processing, we remove the noisy data, we do stemming, lemmatizing, and tokenization using NLP method in Python. And then the output will be a clean data set. The third one for objective 2 is empirical research, which is in phase 5. In empirical research, we compute sentiment score for general purpose lexicon and perform domain focused sentiment. The method we using WKWSCI lexicon and compute the score using Python. The deliverable would be a label dataset with its sentiment score. Next, the development phase. In the development phase, we develop a hybrid lexicon and we compute a final score. Hybrid lexicon is a general purpose lexicon. We combine with the domain focused lexicon. All right. After development, to satisfy objective 3, analysis will be visualized for comparison. And lastly, documentation where final report is the last product from this study. Here it is, sorry. Okay, hybrid lexicon. Hybrid lexicon is a WKWSCI plus domain focused lexicon. WKWSCI is a general purpose lexicon. All right. A little bit about empirical research, which is done in phase 5. After pre-processing, the score from the data will be extract and sum up. For phase 1 in this diagram, we assign polarity of domain focus word to form a domain focus lexicon. Domain focus word such as height. If we say height price, it will be a negative polarity. But if we say high definition television, it will be positive. So the word height is depend on the other. Word like height, we will combine, we will collect and build and develop a domain focused lexicon. Alright, the same process will be done in phase 2, but the difference is lexicon use. The hybrid will occur when the score from phase 1 and phase 2 be combined, followed by some formula. Then final score will be the output of the research. All right. In the last part of research methodology is research flow. It is a summarization of every phases that will be done in order to complete this research. All right. This is the some of the references that I use to complete this presentation slide. And last but not least is the timeline or Gantt chart. The first 3 phases will be done in this semester and the other 5 phases in the next semester. Documentation will require in this semester and next semester, as all of our work need to be jotted down. All right, that's all from me. If you have any question regarding this project or this presentation, I will answer them on the presentation session. Thank you.